Welcome back to the deep dive. We jump into a whole stack of sources, pull out the really key insights, and basically give you a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. Today, our journey takes us somewhere pretty profound. We're looking at one of the crown jewels of Hindu spiritual literature and really world philosophy, the Bhagavad Gita. Our mission here for this deep dive is to give you a clear, compelling understanding of this incredible text, its wisdom, why it still matters so much today, all without, feeling totally overwhelmed. It sets quite a scene, doesn't it? This huge battlefield, a warrior in total crisis, and then this divine charioteer ready to share some truly life-changing ideas.
Absolutely. And what's really fascinating, I think, is how this intensely personal crisis right there on the battlefield, it just sort of explodes into this universal human struggle. It resonates across cultures, across time. It's this incredible conversation happening right before a war, sure, but the lessons are so intimate. They speak right to our own inner battles.
That's a great way to put it. So, okay, let's unpack this a bit. The Bhagavad Gita, it doesn't just appear out of nowhere, right? It's actually a key part, an episode inside the much, much larger Indian epic, the Mahabharata. So picture the scene, we're on this battlefield, Kurukshetra, two sides of the same royal family, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, their cousins, are lined up for this just catastrophic. The great Pandava prince, the legendary warrior, and his charioteer is Krishna. But then Arjuna looks out and he sees his own family, his teachers, people he respects, his friends on both sides. And he just collapses emotionally. He's hit by this massive moral conflict, this deep turmoil. It's this famous moment where he drops his bow, the Gandiva, and says, I won't fight.
Exactly. And what happens next is this, it's a timeless philosophical dialogue. It's right then, at that breaking point, that Krishna starts to teach Arjuna. But he reveals himself first, as an incarnation of Vishnu, the supreme being. And he doesn't just say, buck up. He lays out these fundamental concepts. He talks about dharma, which is more than just duty. It's like your righteous path, your true nature's calling, and the Atman, the real self, eternal beyond the body. And then there's karma, this whole system of action and consequence, and how understanding all this leads to moksha, or ultimate freedom, liberation.
And that first chapter, Arjuna Vishada Yoga, it just throws you right into that intense feeling, that dilemma, dharma versus family, violence versus compassion. It really makes you, the listener, feel the weight of that choice, doesn't it?
It really does. You're immediately put in Arjuna's sandals thinking, what would I do here? It's powerful.
So structurally, the Gita itself is written in classical Sanskrit verse. We're talking 700 shlokas, or verses, and they're divided into 18 chapters, and each chapter is called a yoga, which here doesn't mean just physical postures, right? It means a path, a discipline for spiritual connection.
Right, and if we kind of look at the bigger picture here, that structure is really important because the Gita isn't just one single philosophical argument. It's this amazing synthesis. It pulls together different threads of Indian thought. You've got Vedic ideas, Upanishadic philosophy, and this strong element of devotional practice, bhakti. It weaves them together, so it creates this really comprehensive spiritual guide that speaks to different kinds of people.
Okay, so Krishna starts. Well, it's almost like a shock therapy moment in chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga. It's one of the longest chapters and maybe the most crucial. First, Krishna kind of tells Arjuna off for his weakness, his despair, tells him to shake it off. But then he goes incredibly deep. He explains the nature of the Atman, the self, that it's immortal. It does not kill, nor can it be killed. I mean, that's a mind-bending idea right there. Your real essence is eternal. And this leads straight into the core teaching of Nishkama Karma, which is essentially act, but without attachment to the results. Focus on the action, not the fruits of the action. Krishna really hammers home this idea of equanimity, that evenness of mind. It's summed up in that amazing phrase, samatvam yoga uchyate, evenness is called yoga.
It's a massive psychological shift, isn't it? It's not just about doing your duty anymore. It's about freeing yourself from the anxiety about whether you'll succeed or fail. If you're not attached to the outcome, you can put your whole heart into the action itself. It changes what success even means.
Totally. And building right on that, we get chapter 3, Karma Yoga. Here, Krishna goes deeper into why action is unavoidable. Everyone acts. You can't not act. So the teaching is you have to act according to your own nature, your svadharma, your specific duties and role in life, but always without getting hung up on the results. Be fully engaged, but don't get entangled in the ego-driven desire for outcomes. He even talks about yajna, this idea of cosmic order, or sacrifice in a broader sense. It's less about ancient rituals, more about seeing how every action contributes to the whole system, this interdependence. Even Krishna says he acts, not because he needs anything, but to set an example, to keep the world turning. And here's where it gets really interesting for practical life, right? This idea that acting without selfish desire actually purifies your mind. It offers a way to live fully in the world.
Exactly. It's the heart of what you might call engaged spirituality. You don't need to run off to a cave. Liberation can be found right here through your actions, as long as the intention is pure.
Okay, so diving further into these paths, Chapter 4, Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. This is where Krishna reveals more about his divine nature. He explains he's unborn, eternal, but he takes incarnations avatara whenever dharma declines. That's where that super famous verse comes from, yada yada hi dharmasya. And the key insight here is about jnana knowledge, but not just book learning. It's a deeper wisdom that actually burns away the karma that binds us. It purifies past actions.
And then chapters 5 and 6 really build on this connection between action and inner stillness. Chapter 5, Karma Sannyasa Yoga, tackles a direct question from Arjuna. Which is better, to renounce action altogether, sannyasa, or to act selflessly, karma yoga? Krishna's answer is, well, nuanced. He says both paths lead to the goal, but for most people living in the world, karma yoga is more practical, easier to follow. Because true renunciation, he clarifies, isn't about physically quitting everything, it's about mental detachment. Giving up the attachment, not necessarily the action itself.
That makes so much sense. It means you don't have to become a hermit. Which then leads naturally into Chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. This chapter gives a really practical guide to Raja Yoga, the path of meditation. Krishna describes the yogi's lifestyle moderation in everything. Eating, sleeping, work, recreation. He talks about finding a steady posture, focusing the mind inward, on the self. And he uses that brilliant analogy, trying to control the mind is like trying to control a restless monkey.
Yeah.
Anyone who's tried meditating knows that feeling. And the goal, to become that ideal yogi who sees the self in all beings, that interconnectedness.
Absolutely. It's a struggle everyone faces, that monkey mind, and the Gita offers a very clear pathway to quieten it down so that inner wisdom can actually surface.
So moving beyond the individual practices, Chapter 7, Vijnana Yoga, zooms out again. Krishna describes himself as the ultimate reality behind everything, the source of both the material world and the spiritual. But, he says, most people don't perceive him directly because of Maya, this veil of illusion. He also talks about 4 types of devotees who come to him, which is interesting. Even those seeking help for worldly problems are still turning towards the divine.
And following that, Chapter 8, Aksara Brahma Yoga, addresses something very human. What happens when we die? It's a big question. Krishna explains that your state of mind, specifically the thoughts you hold right at the moment of death, are crucial. Those who die thinking of him, focused on the divine, reach the supreme state. It really underlines the importance of your final thought, but also how your whole life's focus kind of culminates in that moment.
Wow, okay. That leads us to Chapter 9, Raja Vidya Rajaguhya Yoga, the kingly science and royal secret. This feels like a real high point for bhakti yoga, the path of devotion. Krishna describes his own divine presence everywhere. He sustains the whole universe, but he's totally unaffected by it, like the space within a pot. And here's something pretty radical, he says. Even the most sinful can attain liberation through pure devotion. That's huge, isn't it? It suggests the power of sincere love for the divine can overcome past mistakes.
It's incredibly inclusive. It shifts the focus from just strict adherence to rules or moral purity to the power of the heart's intention. It opens the door for everyone.
Then Chapter 10, Vibhuti Yoga, is almost poetic. Krishna describes his vibhutis, his divine glories, his manifestations in the world. He says things like, among rivers, I am the Ganga. Among warriors, I am Arjuna. Among seasons, I am spring. It's beautiful. It's a way of teaching you to see the divine in everything, in all of creation. And that naturally leads to constant remembrance, a constant connection. Find the sacred in the ordinary.
Exactly. It cultivates this sense of wonder, turning just looking around into a spiritual practice, which sets the stage perfectly for Chapter 11, Vishvarupa Darshana Yoga, this peak drama. Arjuna asks to see Krishna's cosmic form, his universal form, the Vishvarupa. Krishna grants him divine sight, and Arjuna sees this terrifying, infinite, dazzling form. Countless faces, arms, eyes, all beings contained within it, devouring everything. Arjuna is completely awestruck, terrified, trembling. And in that moment, he just totally surrenders. It really drives home the sheer majesty, the awe, the almost terrifying power of the divine. It blows the limits of human understanding.
Whoa. That sounds incredibly intense. Is there a risk that, such a powerful, maybe even scary vision could actually put people off? How does the Gita kind of bring it back to something manageable?
That's a really important point. And the Gita addresses it immediately in the very next chapter, Chapter 12, Bhakti Yoga. Arjuna asks, basically, okay, Is it better to worship that vast, formless absolute or a personal God like you, Krishna? And Krishna says, both paths work, they both lead to me, but for most people, loving devotion to a personal form of God is easier, is more accessible. And then he beautifully lists the qualities of his ideal devotee. Someone full of forgiveness, compassion, free from enmity, content. It brings that cosmic awe right back down to earth and to how we treat each other.
That's a perfect transition, actually, because deepening that wisdom, Krishna then gets into some important philosophical distinctions. Chapter 13, Kshatrajna Vibhaga Yoga. He talks about the kshetra, the field, which is like the body, the mind, the whole arena of experience, and the kshatraja, the knower of the field, which is the soul, the consciousness, witnessing it all. He distinguishes between matter, prakriti, and spirit, prusha, and realizing this distinction, understanding you are the knower, not just the field that he says is true knowledge.
And building on that framework, chapter 14, Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, explains the three gunas. These are like the fundamental qualities or energies of nature that make up everything, including our own temperament. There's sattva, purity, light, harmony. Rajas, passion, activity, restlessness. And tamas, ignorance, inertia, darkness. These gunas, he explains, bind the souls of the body in the cycle of rebirth. Understanding how they operate within you and learning to transcend their influence is key to liberation. It's a really insightful psychological model, actually. It helps you understand your own tendencies.
It really does. Gives you a lens to see why you react certain ways. Then, chapter 15, Purusharshila Yoga uses this striking metaphor, an upside-down Ashwatha tree, a banyan tree. Its roots are reaching upwards into the unmanifest, the divine source, while its branches grow downwards, representing the material world, all tangled up. And Krishna says you need to cut down this tree of worldly entanglement with the axe of detachment. Only then can you reach the supreme person, Purushottama, who is beyond even the source of the tree. It's a powerful image for cutting through illusion. Then, chapter 16, Daivasura Sampada Vibhaga Yoga, draws a really clear line. It contrasts divine qualities, things like fearlessness, purity, compassion, truthfulness, with the demoniac qualities, hypocrisy, arrogance, anger, ignorance. The message is pretty direct. Cultivate the divine qualities. They lead to liberation. The others lead to bondage and suffering. It's basically a moral roadmap.
Absolutely, a very practical guide. At chapter 17, Shraddha Vibhaga Yoga explores faith itself, Shraddha. It says faith isn't just one thing. It also comes in three types, influenced by the gunas. There is sattvic faith, pure, aligned with scriptures and inner wisdom, rajasic faith, driven by desire for results, ego, and tamasic faith rooted in ignorance, superstition, going against true principles. The chapter shows how the kind of faith you have fundamentally shapes your actions, your worship, even your food choices, and ultimately your destiny. Your faith determines your reality in a way.
Which brings us to the final chapter, chapter 18, Moksha Sannyasa Yoga. This is the grand finale, the big summary. It beautifully weaves everything back together. Krishna revisits renunciation, clarifying it means renouncing the fruits of action, not action itself. He stresses duty, devotion, selfless service again. And his final powerful plea to Arjuna is basically, surrender all your actions to me, trust me, do your dharma. And the climax is, Arjuna's confusion is gone, his resolve is back. He says, my delusion is destroyed, I shall act according to your word. He picks up his bow. The core theme here is Sharanagati, that complete, loving surrender to the divine will. And it shows the harmony of all the yoga's action, knowledge, meditation, devotion. They all lead to this point.
Yeah, and one of the absolute genius aspects of the Gita, why it's so enduring, is precisely that synthesis. It brings together karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga. It doesn't say one path is the only way. It recognizes people are different, we have different temperaments, different inclinations. So it offers this incredibly integrated approach. It acknowledges, that no single size fits all when it comes to spiritual life. That makes it incredibly relevant and accessible.
And the symbolism, it's so rich. It works on so many levels. That battlefield, Kurukshetra, it's not just some historical place in the story. It's a powerful symbol for that inner battlefield inside every single one of us, right? The constant struggle between our higher impulses and our lower tendencies, good and evil, whatever you want to call it. Arjuna becomes the symbol for the struggling human soul. That's you, that's me, facing difficult choices. Krishna is the divine guide, the inner guru, the higher self whispering wisdom. And even the chariot, it's often interpreted as the physical body. The horses are the senses, pulling us all over the place. The reins are the mind, needing control. And the charioteer, Krishna, is the intelligence, the discriminating faculty, buddhi, guiding it all. Reading it allegorically like this, you see why it's become such a profound manual for inner work, for transformation.
Exactly. It turns an ancient war story into a deeply personal guide for navigating life.
And its influence. just immense over centuries. You have the great ancient commentators like Shankaracharya focusing on non-dualism, Ramanujacharya on devotion and qualified non-dualism, Madhvacharya on dualism. They all found profound meaning in it. Then jump to modern times. Swami Vivekananda really used karma yoga from the Gita to inspire action and service in India. Mahatma Gandhi, wow, he called it his spiritual dictionary, relied on it constantly for nonviolent resistance. And it wasn't just in India. Western thinkers too, people like Emerson, Thoreau, Aldous Huxley, they were deeply impressed by its wisdom, its universal truths.
Now, it's also fair to look at it critically, or at least acknowledge the discussions around it. Its strengths are pretty clear. That timeless relevance we talked about, the universal moral questions, its inclusiveness, bringing together action, knowledge, devotion, the sheer beauty of the Sanskrit verse too, and its practicality offering a path for people living active lives. But there are debates, that central issue. Krishna telling Arjuna to fight, does it endorse violence? Or is that purely symbolic, about fighting inner demons? That's a big discussion.
Yeah, that one comes up a lot.
It does. Then there are scholarly questions about its history. Was it always part of the Mahabharata or added later? And let's be honest, its accessibility, the philosophy is deep, the Sanskrit terms. It takes some effort to really study it properly. But, despite all those debates and complexities, the core message about selfless action, finding inner peace, surrendering the ego to something higher that remains incredibly powerful and transformative for millions.
So, okay, after all that, what does this actually mean for you listening right now? Why should you care about this ancient text?
Well, engaging with the Gita isn't just, an academic exercise. It's really an invitation to live more consciously, more purposefully. Its relevance doesn't fade because we all face our own kurukshetras, our own moral crossroads, large or small. It asks you, personally, what is your dharma? What's your true path? Are your actions coming from your ego, from attachment, or from a place of selflessness, of contribution? How can you start to see the divine spark, not just in temples, but in everyone and everything around you? And the promise the Gita holds out is profound. Freedom. Freedom from the inner turmoil, from the bondage of your own mind. Liberation right here, right now.
It's a call, really, a call for you to become a warrior of the spirit, not fighting against other people, but fighting against the ignorance, the fear, the selfishness within yourself. Because the real victory, the Gita seems to suggest, isn't won on any external battlefield. It's won in the conquest of the self within. That's something to really